Hello YouTubers, welcome to my video. I'm Mr. McRaven and today I'm going to be taking you through a quick overview, stroke review, stroke my thoughts on the latest AMD Piledriver CPU. So we have CPU Z open here, so you can see I do have an 8350 Piledriver CPU installed here, codename Viscera. Currently it's stock with turbo enabled, so you're going to see the frequency fluctuate there, and I use Kingston Genesis 16 gigs of RAM, those timings, and Sabertooth 990 FX motherboard. So I have that set up there with a GTX 580 GPU. So I have some slides here that I'm going to go through briefly to touch on some of the aspects of the CPU. This isn't a benchmarking video by any means. I'll leave the synthetic benchmarks for those of you that like to run them, should you choose to. So before we go over the slides, I'm going to go over some of my thoughts about the Piledriver CPU and about things in general. I know there's going to be a lot of arguments and comments about how Intel is so much better and AMD sucks, they're really crap and things like that. But there's some things I want people to bear in mind when it comes between being competitive between AMD and Intel. Intel are a superb company, and they have a huge amount of manpower and a very, very large financial benefit when it comes to research and development of their CPUs. So it's no surprise, given their size, that they can produce superior CPUs in many aspects in comparison to AMD. So if you don't believe me, you can always look up the financials between AMD and Intel, and you will see exactly what I mean in the differences between the two companies, and why there is such a wide gap, and why AMD aren't quite as competitive with Intel at the moment in the desktop CPU market. So if you look at that, you can draw your own logical conclusions on that. What I will say is, if you're looking to build a new system from scratch and you want a high performance PC that doesn't draw a lot of power, and you want it to be maximizing the efficiency of the power it draws, then by all means go with an Intel build. I've had Intel builds for 10 years and I was always very happy with the performance to power ratio with them, and today it's even more so, probably more important to a lot of people to have the performance power ratio just right. So it's definitely worth bearing in mind to build an Intel if you're starting afresh. However, with the new Piledriver CPUs, they have managed to drop the power draw over the previous generation bulldozer chips, and that's always nice, and hopefully when Steamroller comes out in the I think the first or second quarter maybe of next year, the power consumption will drop down again, and who knows, when they finally finish with this platform, they'll finish with a CPU that's more matching to Intel's power usage, but that's yet to be seen. So the power benefits with Piledriver is a welcome one. It's an improvement, and then hopefully it'll get a lot better. However, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, is it worth upgrading my Phenom 2 or my 8120 or whatever FX that you might be using currently to this generation, the Piledriver, well, we'll draw that conclusion after we've gone through the slides. So we're going to start with these slides, and we're going to have a look. Some of them are from AMD themselves. The Piledriver improvements and enhancements, I have no idea what half of these are, but it's the same, pretty much the same architecture, but they've tweaked it and improved it where they could to gain the extra performance. So improved branch prediction there, not entirely sure what that means, but I'm guessing it's good at prediction. And over here we have the ISA extensions FMA3 and F16C. These are catching up to Intel. So the reason AMD have included these is because Intel already had them, and AMD are just purely catching up on that one there. So improvement scheduling in floating point units and something. I have no idea what that is, but it's an improvement. Larger L1 TLB, larger load queue, improved lock performance, improved store to load forwarding, improved HW prefetcher, improvements here to the cache, faster instruction EXE, INT FP divide, and all that jazz. So there's lots of improvements there that they've managed to do to the architecture, and they've increased, like I said, the power reductions with the Piledriver. So moving on, we're going to look at the competitive positioning of AMD, and I'm sorry that the picture's a little bit small, and if I blow it up it goes all blurry, so I'll keep it down to that size. So with the FX4300, 6300, 8320 and the 8350, and these are the competing Intel CPUs, as you can see here. And the difference with these first three between the Intels is that none of the Intels are unlocked, so you can't really overclock these Intel CPUs, although I think you can slightly if you adjust the turbo core or something like that. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't had an Intel CPU for quite a while, but those of you who know, you will know what you can do with these Intel CPUs. But we're looking at the 8350s, going to be competing with the i5-3570K Ivy Bridge CPU. We can see a price difference there straight away. We can see the core count, the base frequency, the turbo frequency, the cache. They're both unlocked. They both have the same instruction sets as well included. So that's the competitive positioning. I can tell you from benchmarks that I've seen and some of the benchmarks that I've actually run as well that it does keep up with the 3570K, and in quite a lot of cases it also beats it, and it's in some other cases it also keeps up with the I think it's i7 3770K, but not very often. So it's not an Ivy Bridge killer, but it does match up quite well to some in some tests. Moving on, we're going to look at this slide, and we can see from the Zambezi, the Bulldozer, in Cinebench and POV Ray. I've never used POV Ray, but I am familiar with Cinebench. So the Bulldozer got a 5.93 in a multi-threaded test, and a Vishra scores 6.85 in the multi-thread test, which is a 15% improvement. When I tested mine, I believe I got about 6.9 on the multi-threaded test, so it was a very impressive score. And then when I overclocked mine up to 4.7, I got nearly 8 points in multi-threaded test. So it loved Cinebench. It said it was great. It was a day out. It was a trip. It was lovely. So some good performance improvements there, 15% on that. Moving on, we've got W Prime. Zoom in a little bit there, it's still a little bit blurry. Version 2.05, 32M test, multi-threaded CPU benchmark. And we can see that a stock 8350 gets 8.64 seconds, which is fairly close to the i7-2600K, and we can see it comes out ahead of the 3570K there. I managed to overclock mine up, and I got a score of 7.64 seconds, so mine was between 2600K and 3820. So when overclocked, this chip can perform really quite well, and there's still a lot left in the tank, so I can push mine further and probably get a score closer to the 3770K, but that's for another day. Okay, so looking at the desktop lineup, excuse me one second. We can see the 8350 up here with the 8 cores, the base frequency, the cache, total dependent power is still at 125 watts. The memory is still up to 1866, although I believe you can overclock even past that. It's unlocked turbo core, platform AM3 Plus, and launch price in dollars there. And we have 8320, the 6300 and the 4300 as well. The 8320 is a lower binned version of the 8350, so it runs at a lower clock speed, although I've seen some of these overclock quite well and keep up with some 8350s. So if you're thinking of saving a few pounds or dollars and you want to get something close to 8350 performance, then go for the 8320, save yourself a bit more money and overclock that chip to try and catch up. So that's the slides looked at, and we've gone over a few details. If you've not seen it already, I do have a gaming benchmark video up for the 8350, and I can tell you that the gaming performance of the chip is it's pretty good. With a single GPU that I have, the GTX 580, as I said earlier, I got pretty good performance out of it, even at stock. But when I overclocked the chip, it seemed to really like it, and the minimum frame rates went up by, I think it was about an average of 20% improvements in frame rates. But it's not just about the frame rates. The gameplay in nearly all games was a lot smoother. In Battlefield 3, the stutter had gone, a little occasional stutter that I used to get in Battlefield 3 has gone. So gaming performance wise, this chip is actually quite good. On a 580, if you have more powerful GPUs or you're running Crossfire or SLI, then you probably see an even greater improvement. But it's perfectly good enough for me. In nearly all games I've got decent frame rates, so I'm not too worried. Running everyday tasks like using an office program, it was perfectly fine, no issues there at all. Browsing, video, music, it liked it all, and I could do many things at once. I could listen to music while editing a video and checking out things on the internet. So in daily average tasks it ran fine. In single-threaded tasks it is going to be slower than Intel, but it's by no means a slouch. It's certainly still a good processor, even in some single-threaded applications. Using Sony Vegas and Adobe After Effects, which I use a lot, I saw an increase, or should I say a decrease, of up to 28% in render times. So that's very good, because the more time I spend creating and less time I spend waiting for those creations to be finished, the better. So if you do use heavily multi-threaded applications, or you like to do a lot of things at once, then this is probably the CPU for you. So in conclusion then, would I recommend it? Well, there are two ways I can look at it. If you're already on an AMD 3 Plus platform, you already got a bulldozer in your PC, and you think, should I upgrade to the 8350? Will it offer me enough improvement? I would say yes, it's definitely worth the upgrade. The improvements are definitely worth it. Not just performance-wise, but power-wise. You are going to be using a worthwhile amount less energy with the 8350 or the 8320 than you are with the bulldozer. So the energy improvements alone are worth it. Performance-wise, in general tasks, gaming and multi-threaded, you're going to see very worthwhile improvements there. If you're already on a bulldozer platform, then single-threaded applications and all those synthetic benchmarks aren't going to mean a great deal to you. So then again, it's still a worthwhile improvement. What I will say is, if you're looking to build a brand new system, like I said, and you're looking to save as much energy as possible while still maintaining a high performance ratio, then you might want to start looking at Intel, as they currently lead, as I said, with the power to performance ratio. By all means, look at Intel. They offer a very good wide range of chips, CPUs, that you can use depending on what you like to do. However, if you're brand new to CPU building and you would like to build an AMD system, you could do that as well. These are still very good CPUs, and they're becoming a lot more competitive with Intel, and this specific chip, the 8350, will keep up with some of the Ivy Bridge chips in most applications. So that's the end of my video, my conclusion, if you will. So if you are looking to buy this and you're hesitating on clicking that buy button, hesitate no more, because it is a great chip for the money, and it offers significant improvements over the previous generation. So if you have any questions or comments or something you'd like to know about this chip specifically, just leave the questions in the comments box below, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. So try and keep the comments constructive down below, guys. I know there's going to be a lot of fans of Intel and a lot of fans of AMD, and there's going to be heated arguments, but try and keep it clean if you can. So if you haven't seen my gaming benchmark video, you can go and do that now. Check out my channel and you'll find it on there somewhere, and you can see the gaming performance. But until the next time, Take care of yourselves and have fun. So goodbye for now.